Welcome to week 3 of our 8-week Renew series. Tonight we are going to be talking about calories as well as exercise. So tonight's class is going to be a two-parter. So we're going to get started by talking about calories and the calorie balance. Okay, let me get my screen where you guys can see it. Okay, so when we think about calories, we want to think about balancing our calories. So a calorie balance is just simply looking at what calories are being taken in by eating or nutrition and what calories are we using through our activity. So when you're thinking about calories, you want to think about calorie density. What's going to give you the most bang for your buck? So if you remember in previous classes, we talked some about fat and how fat is higher calories per gram. It's about 9 calories per gram compared to carbohydrates and protein. So this means that working on watching your fat, reducing your fat, being mindful of portion size, can help save you some calories. So obviously our goal is to not be hungry, right? So when we are trying to stay within our calorie budget, we also want to think about what we're choosing to eat for our calories. So just to give you an example, this is what 400 calories looks like in the stomach. So you can see here that oil does not fill you up very much, right? But a little bit of oil is a lot of calories. So that's because that's where that fat comes in, right? Because oil is fat, it's high calorie, just like your cheeses would be. Then you can kind of see how your meats would help fill you up. Your potatoes, your rice, and your bean, you get a little bit higher of a quantity for your calorie load. But look at how much fruits and vegetables you can eat, right? So by eating a lot of fruits and vegetables, it's going to help you stay within your calorie goal, but also to feel full. So if you are feeling hungry at the end of meals, then you need to take a look at what you're eating, because part of healthy eating does not mean going hungry. So what our goal is we're trying to mix and match these food groups, these proteins, these carbohydrates, these fruits and vegetables, the dairy, so that we can both feel full and satisfied, but get good nutritional value from each of those groups. So if you think about the My Plate we've discussed in the previous classes, following those portion sizes and really increasing those fruits and vegetables is going to help you be closer to your calorie goal, but also to feel full and content. So when we think about our calories, we burn calories in 3 ways. Just through being alive, your body's daily functions is how you primarily burn most of your calories. Breathing, digestion, sleep, standing, all of those things, heartbeat, that all requires calories, okay? But the 2 levels of activity that we can control are our daily activity, just things we do moving around in our day, washing dishes, going upstairs, going to work, but also our physical activity, right? How hard of exercise we're doing, light, moderate, intense, those are going to determine different levels of calories. So what tends to happen is we overestimate how many calories we're burning, and we drastically underestimate the amount of calories in our food. So just to put it in perspective, 1 mile of brisk walking burns 100 calories, okay? So you could easily eat that right back with a small handful of M&Ms, right? So the 2 have to go hand in hand. You have to do both the physical activity and the movement part, and also taking a look at what you're eating and trying to balance that nutrition part. They're both equally important. A lot of exercise can't make up for a poor diet. So make sure you have both going hand in hand. So if you are eating the same amount of calories as you are moving, your calorie balance is going to stay the same. You're equal. Your weight will stay the same. If you are eating more calories than you are burning, you will gain weight. So if your goal is to lose weight, you have to decrease the amount of calories you're eating and increase how much you're moving. So what is going to tip the scale for you? 1 pound of fat is about 3,500 calories. Okay, so to lose 1 pound of fat in a week, you would need to reduce by about 3,500 calories, which is about 500 calories per day. This means that 1 to 2 pounds per week is a realistic goal for weight loss, because to lose 1 to 2 pounds in a week, you have to reduce your calories each day by 500 to 1,000 calories. So trying to lose more weight than that, thinking that you're going to have this dramatic weight loss, you can't do it in a very healthy way when you lose weight rapidly, because you can't physically reduce your calories enough to lose weight really quickly. So it's better to go slow and steady, because you're much more likely to keep that weight off. Okay, so 1 to 2 pounds a week is a realistic goal where you can begin to incorporate changes, and little by little, and you'll start to see the weight come off. No one should be eating less than 1,200 calories per day unless medically supervised. So sometimes we can swing too far where we can actually reduce our calories too much, and then we're actually hindering weight loss. We're putting our body into starvation mode, and it's not a healthy way to try and lose weight. So it is actually important to make sure to eat enough calories, but we want to make sure we're choosing foods that are high in that nutritional value for our calorie sources. So think about, at this point, we are in our 3rd week. So what changes have you started to make to be more active? And what changes have you started to make in either your portion sizes or in the amount of calories you're eating? What kind of changes are you making with your eating habits? If your weight has stayed the same or you've gained weight, what do you think you need to do to tip the scale? Think about 1 to 2 small, realistic actions that you feel like you're ready to take on that would help tip that scale, for the calorie balance. If you are losing weight, what do you feel like you have done to tip the balance? Have you made changes in your eating habit? Have you made changes in your exercise? And what do you want to do to keep moving forward? So here are just some general tips that can help you to tip that scale. So when thinking about your nutrition, think about nutrient dense versus calorie dense food. So this means choosing foods that are high in nutritional value versus high in caloric value. So you want to use those foods that are going to fill you up for less calories. Choose small meals and snacks. Eat smaller portions more often. Eat enough. Make sure you're eating enough calories. Make sure you're not skipping meals, you're eating regularly, and include all the food groups. Try to eat a variety. Keep a food journal. This will really help you to be able to see what you're eating and what kind of changes you want to make. With your physical activity, think about increasing your time or your frequency, how often you're doing it. Change up your routine. If you've been doing the same thing for a long period of time, your body gets used to that. So you need to mix it up. and look for more ways to be active in your day. So, how can you just get more steps in general? There's some great resources to help you with this. Last week, we talked about different calorie trackers that you can use. Um, but also think about maybe something to track your physical activity, whether that's a Fitbit or an Apple Watch, some kind of pedometer. There's lots of free apps that can give you a good baseline for where you're at with your movement, and you can work on increasing your steps. So start to think about, what are your goals? What are small, realistic goals that you're ready to start taking to start move you towards tipping the scale? So this is the part 1, calorie balance, and we're going to continue into part 2, exercise. Hello and welcome to part 2 of week 3. So we are going to take a deeper dive into exercise. So let's get started. Okay, so what do you feel like are some of your biggest challenges to exercising consistently? And I want you to really think through this. Take your time, write down what you feel like are some of your key barriers, because if you know what's getting in the way, you can start to think through how to work around those barriers. So, why does exercise matter? Exercise has been proven to improve your mood, help with better sleep, more energy. It makes everyday activities easier. It helps reduce stress, anxiety, depression. It lowers our risk of type 2 diabetes, better heart health, better flexibility, losing weight, keeping it off, more muscle, lower body fat, less risk of injury. So, can you think of anything that has as many benefits to your health as exercise and eating well? There is no medication out there that is going to have all of these health benefits, right? So, why is it then, if exercise can do all these things for us, and it's so important to not only living a long life, but to our quality of life, then why is it that exercise is one of the first things that we drop when we start to get too busy? Right? So, how much exercise is really needed? Where do we start? You want to try to get at least 30 minutes of some form of cardio each week, with a goal of trying to get about 30 minutes 5 days a week. So in total, you want to get at least 150 minutes in no more or no less than 3 days. So you could do like 3 days a week for 50 minutes, or you could do 5 days a week for 30 minutes. But you want to try to be getting some form of cardio most days of the week. So what is cardio? Cardio is anything that gets your heart beating and your lungs pumping. So things like walking, running, biking, swimming, dancing, aerobic classes, um, rollerblading, all of those things where you're getting an increased heart rate and you're working those lungs. Okay, you want to try to get that most days of the week. You also want to incorporate some type of strength training where you work all your major muscle groups. So as we age, we lose muscle. So it's really important to incorporate strength training in your major muscle groups. So your legs, your core, your back, your arms. You want to try to work all of those areas to help keep yourself strong. So at least 2 days a week. That does not mean you have to lift weights. You can actually use even your own body weight as a way to do strength training, or you can incorporate weights or just weighted objects you have on hand at home, like using your canned vegetables or a gallon milk jug, something like that. And then you also want to include some flexibility. So this is going to help you improve your range of motion. And you can do that by warming up before you start exercising. So warming up your muscles. So for example, if you're going to power walk, maybe starting a little slowly and just kind of getting those muscles warm and then starting to move faster. You don't just want to dive right into a high intensity workout. You want to warm up, and then you really want to take the time to stretch after. I know it can seem like you want to just ditch the stretching and go ahead and be done with the workout. But actually, stretching after exercise is when your muscles are nice and warm, and you're really going to be able to improve your range of motion and your flexibility. So it's really important to actually take the time to stretch those muscles out after you've worked them. So when you're putting together a workout, you can think about the fit principle. So the frequency, how often am I trying to do this exercise? Is it 2 days a week? Is it 3 days a week? Is it once a week? The intensity, how hard do I plan to work? And you can actually play around with this. Some of your workouts might be a higher intensity in a shorter period of time, whereas other workouts might be a lower intensity and a longer period of time. So that's actually a great thing to keep in mind if you're pressed for time, is maybe you want to do something at a little bit higher of an intensity, so you can burn more calories and get a great workout in a smaller period of time. Um, and then time, how long do you plan to do it? Am I going to walk for half an hour, 45 minutes, an hour? And then what type is it that you're planning on doing? Are you working on your cardio? Are you going to go for a walk? Are you working on strength? Do you plan to lift some weights? Are you working on flexibility? Maybe you're trying some yoga or some gentle stretching. So what is your goal of this workout? What area are you trying to improve on? And sometimes workouts can actually incorporate all three of these things all at the same time. So think through, what type of exercise am I trying to do it? When am I going to do it? How hard do I want it to be? How long do I want it to be? So, for example, I would like to power walk 3 days a week at a fairly hard intensity for 25 minutes. And that would be an example of how to kind of design a little bit of a workout. When you think about intensity, think about a scale of 1 to 10. So 1 is like rest, how we're sitting talking now, and 10 would be like a full-blown sprint. I couldn't do this longer for 10 seconds. You usually want to be in the yellow, in that kind of somewhat hard, where it's a challenge, like a 5, 6. It's a challenge, but you're not like ready to fall over. But you can actually play around with the intensity, and mix it up. You know, if you're walking, you could start at fairly light, then go up to a 6 or a 7, then go to back down to a 5, and then up to an 8. You could move the incline up and down. You could adjust the speed on the treadmill. So you can actually change the intensity depending on the workout that you're trying to get. So, in addition to that 150 minutes a week, I want you to also think through what are ways you can just get yourself moving more throughout your day. Okay. Is it taking the stairs? Is it cleaning the house? Is it walking the dog? What kinds of things? Is it parking further away? Is it playing a sport like golf or tennis? Is it less screen time and getting up and moving around more? I once had somebody tell me they used to stack their laundry on the stairs, and then at the end of the day, they would take it all up. And instead, she started taking it every time she went to set it on the stairs. So it ended up she might go up the stairs 10 or 11 more times in the day. So think about how many extra steps that gave her. Think about when you shop. So parking further away, walking around the store. If you're in a like a strip mall, walking from store to store instead of moving your car. Think about the workplace. Can you take the stairs instead of the elevator? Instead of sending an email, could you walk to someone's desk and tell them what you need to say? Could you use the restroom on a different floor? Could you take a break and stand up and stretch for 5 minutes once every hour? One thing that can really help with this is actually getting a way to track your steps, so such as like a pedometer or an app on your phone or a Fitbit or an Apple Watch, where you can actually see where you fall and work towards getting more steps. So if you track your steps and you're only getting, let's say, 2,000 steps a day, maybe then working on trying to increase it to 3 or 4,000 steps, and building it up over time, trying to get closer to that 10,000 steps a day goal. So you kind of have two goals you're working on. One is to incorporate some type of fitness plan. Um, so not just getting more steps, but actually doing intentional exercise that's going to give you those cardio benefits. But two, just moving more in our day. And now we have to be very intentional about our movement because most of us have very sedentary jobs. So working on just trying to get more active overall. So they say sitting is the new smoking. So what do you think that means? If you remember everything we've learned about smoking and how poor smoking is for your health, think about what that means when they say sitting. Most of our day is spent sitting in front of a computer, sitting on our phone, sitting in front of the television, laying in our bed. So we have to be very intentional with our movement, getting ourselves up. Our bodies were made to move. So the goal for this week is to really think about how to get those muscles moving more. So, what does that look like for you? What do you want to work on in terms of exercise? What do you want to work on in terms of just more movement? Remember that you can start small and work on these things. You don't have to achieve everything all at once, right? So if you're not exercising currently, don't set a goal that you're going to exercise 5 days a week for an hour. That's probably not realistic, right? So think about where you are today and think about what you're ready to start working on. So start small and you can always add to your goal. You're going to feel a lot more encouraged if you set a small, achievable goal. And once you achieve that, you'll feel encouraged to add more than if you try to overshoot and set too big of a goal. And if you're not successful, then you want to quit, right? So I want you to think through, what is my goal? What do I want to look like in terms of my physical activity? And what do I want to look like in terms of just getting myself moving more? All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's class, and I'll see you next week.